Yo, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy Dan, aka aDrive. I'm bringing you guys a video on Pokemon Masters today. And yes, you read that title right. Pokemon Masters has generated $26 million in the first week of launch, man. And that is absolutely incredible for a mobile game, for a Pokemon game, and just in general, to generate that much revenue in just a week of launch. In this video, we're going to talk about a bunch of different things concerning Pokemon Masters, including the revenue, the future of the game, the current event that's going on, and PvP, which is something that I've been talking about a lot on Twitter. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button down below and make sure you guys subscribe if you guys are new for daily Pokemon content. Now, let's talk about this $26 million before we go any further here. That is absurd. We have this article here from My Nintendo News, which covers the fact that it made $26 million in player spending in the first week. 16 million, or 62% of that, came from Japan. So the people in Japan were definitely trying to get their blue, trying to get their, their Phoebes and whoever else, and they were definitely spending some money. 62% coming from Japan. When you think of just from a geographical standpoint of landmass, I'm not super keen on the population standpoint, but that seems pretty astounding actually. But nevertheless, 26 million, but you can really only kind of take a look at that in comparison to other Pokemon mobile games. Pokemon Rumble Rush made $300,000. Pokemon Magikarp Jump made $1 million. Pokemon Quest made $3 million in the first week, which actually I'm really surprised about because I only know what I know from, my content, right? So when I streamed Pokemon Quest when it came out, a lot of people were interested in Quest, and actually Quest had a pretty decent lifespan of a few weeks of people being really excited about Pokemon Quest, and people were enjoying the streams, watching the YouTube videos. There's a lot of buzz around it, but that evidently did not equate to player spending, probably because you spend the 15-20 bucks to get the different pots or whatever in Quest, and that's really all you have to spend, and that's it, because they failed to release DLC and updated content. I don't think Quest ever had any updates, and it was mind-blowing to me because they could have easily put out, Gen 2, etc. They just never did it. They never added new levels. I don't know, maybe it just flopped in terms of their revenue model and they just couldn't invest enough into resources into it. But Pokemon Masters here, $26 million, about half of what Pokemon Go did in the first week, which is pretty insane considering how Pokemon Go went incredibly viral, to the point where it was covered by news outlets. It was everywhere. I haven't seen anything close to that for Pokemon Masters, which tells me that Pokemon Masters on its own is a much more, kind of natural money maker than Pokemon Go would be, which makes sense because Pokemon Go's primary money-making objective is incubators. A lot of people weren't really getting incubators. It wasn't really a focus. People may be spending a little bit of money on Pokeballs, but Pokemon Masters has a way of just making you spend, 15 bucks, then you didn't get what you wanted, so then you spend another 10 bucks, and then next thing you know, you spend 150 bucks, and you still didn't pull blue. Yep. Anyway, so Pokemon Masters, this is a good thing, right? This is a good thing that it made so much money. I didn't spend $26 million, obviously, so hey, you know what? More power to them, and more power to DeNA, who made this game. So you would think, okay, more money involved in the game, chances are they're going to support it more. That means there's going to be more sync pairs, there's going to be more events, and so on and so forth. But, well, let's talk about that here in a moment. Before I go any further, I think it's important to put these numbers into perspective because I know there's going to be people who immediately think that $26 million in the first week, oh my god, this is the death of the Pokemon Switch franchise. They're not going to ever do another main series console game ever again. I even saw people tweeting about that, saying, they're never going to do a console game again. And Joe Merrick, of course, very quick to remind people that Let's Go accrued approximately $700 million in revenue in its first month, total, $700 million total, and in its first month accrued $600 million. So if you take that $26 million of Masters and multiply that out, that's $104 million roughly. That's not anywhere close to what Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee did, and that I consider Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee to be somewhat of a flop because it was a remake of a game. I know it didn't flop in the eyes of Pokemon and Nintendo, but from a fan base perspective, it was a good game. It just didn't have a lot of life behind it. $700 million. It's going to take a lot of time for Masters to catch up with that. And there's another piece to this puzzle here. While, you kind of think of, okay, $26 million over a week, 104 over a month, if it stays true. It don't necessarily stay true, but one good event, Red comes out and they could easily make, $10 million that day just because of Red, you know what I mean? I feel like the possibilities are there. Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee and the main series console games sell the consoles for Nintendo. There is a massive incentive from Nintendo to create those console games, because if they don't create those console games, then they're not going to sell the consoles. Pokemon is a massive console seller. In fact, so much so that they're packaging the Nintendo Switch Lite with Pokemon Sword and Shield because they know it's going to sell their new version of the console. They did this in the past with the 3DS. Going to the 2DS for Pokemon X and Y. They released the 2DS alongside Pokemon X and Y pretty much simultaneously to sell consoles. That is what Nintendo does with Pokemon. They sell consoles with Pokemon. They are not going to go away from the main series games. And the main series games, while maybe aren't the biggest piece of the pie for the money that TPCI makes and Nintendo makes in terms of the Pokemon franchise, it's such a crucial and essential part to this puzzle. I don't anticipate it going away anytime soon. So the success of a mobile game, you got to think, as a fan, me personally, I'm happy that the game has done so well, because generally that means the company is going to do well, which means they're going to put more time and resources into the company. Stop complaining about that one tree, all right? I don't want to hear it in the comment section. Just a couple things I wanted to note about that regarding this kind of massive, first week. So congratulations to Masters and DeNA for a great first week. But let's turn things around a little bit, because I have some gripes with this game, and I'm going to use this video to talk about that, because I genuinely feel like the things I'm going to talk about are in the best interest of the game. And I am coming from a perspective of someone who really enjoys Pokemon Masters, sees a ton of potential with Pokemon Masters, and wants it to succeed. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm right, and I understand that. DeNA probably has a totally different vision, and we're going to talk about that here in a second. But I genuinely feel like that the points I'm going to make here coming up are really beneficial for the game as a whole. So here's an article, and I was a little bit frustrated yesterday. I was on stream. People were talking about PvP. I was talking about PvP. I'm a big believer that Pokemon Masters needs to add a PvP style ladder. Right now, the current endgame content is the co-op feature, where you randomly match with people on the internet to battle against these EX trainers and these different co-op levels that have these crazy buffs and pretty much are immune to status most of the time. They one-shot most of your guys, and it's really a matter of just getting lucky and pairing with people who have half a clue what they're doing, / playing with friends to ultimately be able to take down these different stages that, again, are just super buffed up sync pairs that are immune to various things. So anyway, this apparently is an article from, let's take a look, is a month ago about Pokemon Masters, and I'll summarize here. The core premise, and this is from DeNA, from Yu Sasaki, and the core premise for the game is that we want people working together, to be making friends, to be working with their companions, and meeting all these different sync pairs. We want people to enjoy that. Since that was the founding principle, we weren't going to include something where you have players pitted against each other, because that wouldn't be compatible with the original concept. And then they talk about why it's real time instead of being turn-based. So this point right here basically says that they had no plans to include PvP into the game. Now this could change down the road, but at this moment, the focus and the vision for Pokemon Masters from a perspective of DeNA and whoever else is working on this game is that they are not going to add PvP into the game. And I think that is a massive mistake, huge mistake. And we're going to talk about that. So my thought process here is, first of all, anyone who's against PvP being added to the game, please understand that I'm suggesting this as an addition, not to take away from anything that currently exists in Pokemon Masters, because Pokemon Masters in itself is cool, right? You got these little missions, you kind of do the co-op thing, that's all great. But what's the end game? The end game right now is these co-op missions that really don't have a ton of competitive aspect to them. They're really just luck of the draw of getting matched with people who have half a clue, or playing with your friends, which is all great, but again, it's just super grindy, and there's not really any, I don't know, it just doesn't feel competitive to me. And another big point is currently tech sync pairs, which is 1/3 of the classes, right? There's strike, support, and tech. Tech is essentially useless right now because the majority of the co-op opponents that you're facing have these crazy immunities to status. So something like Crobat, which otherwise would be a really cool sync pair with Koga, is essentially useless because you can't poison things, or you just get one shot anyway. So right now, the whole system is eliminating 1/3 of the sync pairs right out the gate, just fundamentally from the way this game is designed. But here's my thought process on PvP. I genuinely believe that PvP needs to be added in the game, and there needs to be an online ranking battle system where you can randomly connect and face an opponent and do the same battle in real time, whether it's 3v3 or another cool idea I had thought of is instead of being 3 sync pairs versus 3 sync pairs, it's actually 4 sync pairs versus 4 sync pairs, and you see which 4 you're sending in and your opponent is sending in, and you simply choose which sync pair goes in the back, and then you can switch it in. So you have one thing that can switch in. That could add like an extra layer of strategy to PvP. But I see a lot of people on Twitter saying, aDrive, if they do PvP, it's going to make the game too pay to win. And that's not the case at all, because all they have to do, and I think that they should do this already, is have certain sync pairs come from storyline elements and other sync pairs come from the sync pair pull, the scout pull, where you have to spend gems, and you can acquire gems, so all you have to do is get lucky in the sync pull, but you can also get decent characters from the storyline. You know, obviously Red and Charizard and Steven and Metagross, those are going to go into the scout pulls because those are going to make them so much money, it would be stupid to do anything otherwise. But that doesn't mean they can't put completely viable 3 or 4 star characters or even a few 5 stars sprinkled in into the main gameplay like they already have to encourage people to get those characters, and those can counter these. And I just feel like that's such a dynamic metagame where, you know, let's say my team is Rosa and Superior and Karen and Houndoom and then some other support. Let's say, I don't know, Swanna and Skyla. So right there I have a Superior, I have a Houndoom, and I believe Houndoom's weakness is fighting. I could be wrong. I think it's fighting. Let's assume it's fighting. And that's the metagame. The metagame is to use Karen and Houndoom and Superior, basically. But all of a sudden, the metagame can shift really quickly because someone can easily counter that and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to use Corinna and Lucario, and that's going to be my team. And then that has a huge advantage against the Karen Houndoom team, right? Because you're a physical attacker instead of a special attacker. And having a 4th PvP sync pair could add another element of that. So I just feel like there's such a dynamic potential for PvP in Pokemon Masters, and it's infuriating to me to hear that the plan of this game is to not do that, because I just feel like this battle system is incredible. Like, it really is so good, and there's so many intricacies that could be added in the future. You could have really cool combinations of sync pairs, a metagame could develop, a counter metagame could develop. Every time a new sync pair comes out, every single week, the metagame could shift, and it could create a really, really fun, competitive, compelling experience in a mobile game that I don't think we've really seen before from the Pokemon franchise. That's my thought right there. Now, kind of pivoting off of the PvP aspect, the other thing I want to mention about this game is the fact that, yes, it's only been a week, and I get that, but it's not like they didn't have a month leading up to this to kind of prepare what they're going to do. And right now, there's just simply not enough content for the people who are grinding this game. There's just simply not enough. The blue event launched, and it was cool, but I beat the blue event and gathered all my tickets within 4 or 5 hours of playing the event. This is a month-long event, and yes, it's not revealed yet, but they are going to be releasing Hilbert and Oshawott soon, which is going to be a really, really high-tier support character. In fact, probably one of the best supports that the game's going to have up to this point. We also know Lyra and Chikorita / Meganium is also going to be released, another really high tier support sync pair that are going to be coming out at the end of the month. So that's all fine and dandy, but there's nothing else to do in the game besides just grind materials right now and do these co-op missions that, again, it's so hit and miss whether you get a good co-op pair, and even if you do, you beat it, and then what? I get a cool little pin and a bat. Like, I just feel like this game needs PvP, dude. And if it doesn't have PvP, there needs to be like 20 hours of content to grind every month from the event perspective. I'm not asking for 100, I'm asking for 20, because that 4 hours for the event that was supposed to span a month, dude, I'm sorry, there's just not enough content to expect people like myself and you guys to play and stay involved in this game. Please understand that my perspective here is coming from a perspective of passion and interest in this game. I genuinely want it to do well. I send my congrats out to DeNA and the Pokemon Masters team for a successful first week, but please reconsider about PvP, consider it. I think it needs to be in this game, and I genuinely feel like it doesn't take anything away from the game as it is. You can still do everything you're doing, but use that $26 million and build a PvP ladder, please. I'm telling you, that is what this game needs. I had to rant about this, dude. It's been killing me, man, because I really want this game to do well. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys agree with me. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit that like button, subscribe if you guys are new, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.